Transvestism is often misunderstood. Many believe it is about clothing, about style, about imitation. Yet in depth psychology, it is something far more intimate, an attempt of the psyche to balance itself, to express parts of the self that were once forbidden, neglected, or hidden. Transvestism is not a performance, it is a conversation between the self and the self, a way for the psyche to breathe where it once felt constrained. Clothing in this context is not fabric, it is symbolic skin. Each piece of clothing represents qualities that the person has learned they are not allowed to embody. A man who dons traditionally feminine clothing is not pretending to be a woman. He is accessing an emotional landscape that his upbringing may have denied him: softness, vulnerability, elegance, playfulness, tenderness. A woman who adopts traditionally masculine attire may not be imitating a man. She may be seeking strength, confidence, or autonomy that her environment discouraged. Transvestism rarely emerges from superficial desire, it emerges from emotional necessity. Consider a boy raised in a family where masculinity was defined narrowly: be strong, be silent, be controlled. Emotions were weaknesses, sensitivity a flaw. The boy grows into a man with a rigid identity, a self carefully edited to fit expectations. Yet beneath this exterior lives a part of him that longs for gentleness, color, softness, qualities he was told to suppress. When he wears feminine clothing, he is not disguising himself. He is revealing the part of him that was never allowed to exist in daylight. The clothing becomes a key to an emotional room long locked away. Or take someone who experienced early emotional invisibility. As a child, they may have learned that their true self went unnoticed or dismissed. In adulthood, adopting another style of dress, another identity, symbolically, can create a sense of visibility. The feminine or masculine persona becomes a way of being seen, a way of claiming a presence the child never possessed. The transformation does not hide the self. Paradoxically, it reveals it. There are also individuals who use transvestism as a form of emotional regulation. Gendered clothing carries psychological weight. Masculinity often symbolizes control and protection. Femininity symbolizes softness and receptivity. A person overwhelmed by stress or emotional burden may shift their clothing as a way of shifting inner states. Putting on a skirt or delicate garment can calm the psyche, just as wearing strong, structured clothing can ground it. The transformation becomes a method of inner balancing, a way to regulate emotions when words are insufficient. Some find liberation in the temporary suspension of their social identity. They do not wish to become another gender. They wish to step out of the rigid expectations attached to their own. In the moment of dressing differently, the psyche steps into a freer psychological space, one not bound by childhood rules, family roles, or societal scripts. This freedom is not about deception, it is about relief. It is. And yet for many, transvestism carries a painful shadow: shame. The shame rarely comes from the act itself. It comes from the internalized beliefs of childhood, that softness is dangerous, that vulnerability is humiliating, that self-expression must be hidden. The person may feel deep fear of being ridiculed or rejected, even though the act is psychologically healthy. The shame is the echo of someone else's discomfort, inherited long before the person chose anything. When this shame begins to dissolve, transvestism often reveals its true purpose: not sexual gratification, but identity integration. There are also instances where transvestism becomes eroticized. This eroticization is not deviant, it is symbolic. The clothing triggers an emotional state the person cannot reach otherwise, a state of release, relief, or emotional permission. The arousal is tied not to the clothing but to the psychological transformation it represents. It is the body's way of signaling that a hidden part of the self finally has space to breathe. Transvestism is, at its core, a bridge. a bridge between the self that navigates the world and the self that lives inside. It is a reconciliation of opposites, strength and fragility, assertiveness and receptivity, discipline and softness. When a person engages in transvestism, they are not abandoning their identity. They are expanding it. Healing, if needed at all, does not aim to remove transvestism. It aims to remove the shame surrounding it. When the emotional meaning becomes understood, when the person sees that this impulse is not strange but human, the act becomes less charged, less secretive, more integrated. The clothing stops being a mask and becomes a symbol of psychological wholeness. Transvestism is not about pretending to be someone else. It is about finally allowing oneself to be complete.